Hello, everybody. This is Nabil Salam, also known as the Noble Player, and today I want to talk about not only one but two interesting stories that have been happening with PlayStation lately, or actually, something that has some direct correlation towards PlayStation. And I wanted to talk about them. I want to actually, give you guys my opinion about it. And so, yeah, let's actually start with this. So the first story that I want to bring to you guys involving PlayStation is in regards to Square Enix. Square Enix being one of the more popular third-party game developers and publishers in the industry. Square Enix plans to aggressively pursue multi-platform game releases. This is coming off of the fact that Square Enix has been recently finding a lot of struggles in, getting long-term profit for the recent big AAA titles, and so much so they've also been involved as well with a lot of video game layoffs happening in the American and European branches as part of restructuring because of struggling to make a lot of profit with some of their games. But let's get started over here. Everybody's getting bitten by the multi-platform bug now. It's Square Enix. In its earnings report released earlier today, the publisher shared plans to increase profits, stating that it will aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs. Now, I like how they say here about Nintendo platforms as if they're referring to the next, Nintendo console or the Switch successor. I'll get more into that a little bit afterwards. Right now, Square Enix's biggest games like Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth have been restricted to PlayStation 5 with PC releases for select titles that include Final Fantasy 7 Remake integrate following some time after the console's launch. However, smaller new releases like the forthcoming versions of Mana are seeing simultaneous releases on Xbox. The company wrote that it hopes to bring major franchises, including its back catalog, to more platforms, and it will build an environment where more customers can enjoy our titles. I'm really hoping at some point that, I'm serious, Square Enix just remake or port Chrono Trigger. I swear, it'll make all the money in the world. It's a policy Xbox has been starting to pursue, releasing exclusives on other platforms like Grounded and Pentiment on Nintendo Switch, and highly praised Hi-Fi Rush on PlayStation 5. By the way, I have been playing Hi-Fi Rush on my PC again lately. What a fantastic game. I can't believe Xbox was dumb enough to actually shut down Tingo Gameworks. I did a video about that. I'm going to tag it somewhere in this section of the video. The news that fans can expect more Square Enix titles on more platforms was coupled with additional reports that the company is undergoing a round of video game layoffs, which I had mentioned before in one of the other articles I presented. According to that report, the publisher is planning to let go of an unconfirmed number of people across its US and European businesses. And earlier this year, industry analysts have speculated that Square Enix's most recent game, 7 Rebirth, has not been selling as well as expected. Square Enix itself has not shared the sales numbers for the game, despite doing so for Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 15, and Rebirth direct predecessor, the 7 Remake. This shift to multi-platform releases then might be in response to Rebirth's apparently soft sales. And the fact that Final Fantasy 15, one of the best-selling games in the franchise, has sold a combined combined total of 10 million copies on both PlayStation and Xbox. So really what I want to get into a little bit is I understand that when it comes to console exclusivity, it's a very touchy subject, especially for one that actually own a PlayStation 5, own Xbox, or Switch. I always felt like, for example, in the case of a game that's being released by Square Enix, when Final Fantasy 7, 16 and Rebirth, and even the 7 Remake to that extent, when they're really expensive to make and they take so long to produce, they probably cost around $200 million to make as a budget, really. You shouldn't really be so focused entirely onto one single platform, for example. Now, I know that, for example, PlayStation has sold many, many units. I think it's up to close to 60 million units, if I'm correct on that. But even with that, PlayStation, in my opinion, has not been heavily focused on, has been not going too much of their own Japanese roots, really, like they used to back with the PS1, PS2, and PS3 days. They're more focused on all the Western ideals, the companies they've actually been able to acquire to produce, these super realistic, graphic, narrative-driven games where you go from point A to point B. You press, the letter X, you press X, for example, and then you just move on, for example, to the next level. It doesn't seem they're more focused on a lot of these over the top, visually stylistic It's just like visually stylish games. And in that case, with Square Enix in mind, I'm hoping that, whether it comes, for the next, Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts 4, Dragon Quest 12, and, whenever they release the next installment for the final chapter in the 7 remake trilogy, in that case, that, they're going to talk about, putting into multiple platforms, including the including, the next Nintendo console, which I think would be very interesting because the Nintendo Switch has actually at least, I think 140 million units sold, and a lot of those units sold, a lot of it comes from, a huge fan base in Japan. I think the Square Enix really taps into that audience, into that demographic alongside PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. They can really, I think, get back on track. So yeah, that's kind of want to bring up with this story a little bit over here. I want to know what you guys think about that in the comments below. And now, let's get into the next topic over here that I want to bring about, involving PlayStation's management. PlayStation names joint CEOs after Jim Ryan's retirement. So actually, let's just begin right over here. Herman Hulst and Hideaki Nishino, I must apologize if I butchered that name or mispronounced that name, have been named as the joint CEOs of Sony's gaming division, PlayStation, following Jim Ryan's retirement. Now, personally, Jim Ryan being retired, I don't think that's really a big loss. I didn't feel like he was actually a very good leader for PlayStation. I don't think he really grasps or understands the legacy and history of PlayStation. We believe in console generations. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. In an unusual move, the role has been split into two separate jobs, with Mr. Holt mostly overseeing software and game titles, while Mr. Nishino will be mainly looking after the hardware side of things, so like any PlayStation products or accessories for the PS5. Mr. Ryan stepped down after 30 years with the company, which included overseeing the launch of the PlayStation 5. Now, I will say, at least for this, Jim Ryan did, that's one of the positive things that he's done, while, a lot of people were still, in lockdown, the way he was able to, be able to launch the new console, the latest PlayStation console, and be able to produce at least a couple of games, or at least enticing to purchase. I think they did a really good job of that. But after that launch, I feel like it's been a huge stumble from there for many, many, many reasons. The pair will start the new roles on June 1, replacing Sony Chief Operating Officer Hiroki Totoki, who was the interim boss while the company looked over for a successor. These two leaders will have clear responsibilities and will manage strategic direction to ensure the focus remains on deepening engagement with existing PlayStation users and expanding experiences to new audiences, said Mr. Totoki in a statement. Mr. Herman Hulst first joined Sony in 2005. He's actually one of the co-founders of Guerrilla Games that have produced, the two Horizon games and also Killzone. Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Horizon games at all, but Killzone I think is really good, very underrated actually in the history of PlayStation video games. He went on to become head of PlayStation Studios, which oversees the development of games made by the studios the company owns, such as Spider-Man in 2018 and God of War Reboot in 2018 as well. So for me, alongside the masterpiece that is Ghost of Tsushima, I thought Spider-Man and God of War Reboot, I thought those two also would be considered top tier, PlayStation titles alongside Bloodborne as well. Though Bloodborne was a game developed entirely from software independently, and then PlayStation got the rights to publish it as a exclusive. His new role will also involve looking after how PlayStation games are turned into other forms of media, such as film and television shows. So we've seen, a lot of success and misses, within, the film and television show productions from Hollywood productions. So we had The Last of Us TV show. We even had, Uncharted, and we also had we have an upcoming Ghost of Tsushima live action adaptation with the film that I'm very excited for. And also last year they made Gran Turismo into a movie, which I highly, highly recommend you guys see that movie. It came out last year. Wonderful film. It did not deserve to be shoved under the radar, in my opinion. It deserved much more than that. The video game industry is one of the largest entertainment industries in the world and has been built on the marriage of content and technology, and I look forward to continuing to push the boundaries of play and entertainment, Herman Hulst said. Meanwhile, Mr. Nishino currently leads the team which develops the technology behind PlayStation products such as the PS VR2 headset, as well as services like PlayStation Network I hope they can fix around a little bit with the PlayStation Network problems that's been going on, especially with PC, as well as, you know, the PlayStation VR headsets. Like, okay, we have the VR1 for PS4, and now we have VR2 for the PS5. I feel like they're pushing virtual reality like way ahead. It's too ahead of its time, in my opinion. I don't think a lot of people are ready to play VR games, let alone when they're very expensive. There's not a lot of titles for them, and it's not practical for a lot of people to wear those heavy headsets, move around like this, really. His new role will oversee this, as well as relations with third-party publishers and how its hardware is marketed. I'm honored to be appointed such an important role alongside Herman, he said. By working more closely together, we'll be positioned to build incredible experiences for an ever-expanding audience now and in the future. So really, overall, I like what Mr. Herman Holt and what Mr. Nishino have said actually about these statements. I think these are very encouraging statements. I think these are very positive statements that can give a lot of PlayStation users and customers a little bit of optimism of what's going to happen. My only hope, really, when it comes to things like this, is that I hope they produce, like, they produce the quality games. They obviously have the money and the budget to do so, but make these really fun, over-the-top, visually stylish, video games. What Mr. Nishino said, he talked about, relations with third-party publishers. I was thinking a lot, like, recently I've been playing, I'm still continuing my journey with Stellar Blade. They, got the publishing rights actually to put an exclusive on their own system made by a Korean studio, Shift Up, for example. And that game is so much fun. It's nothing like a lot of the Western games they've been producing, where it's just hyper-realistic graphics and like narrative-driven storytelling over gameplay, for example. It's so pretty to look at. Takes advantage of the technology, with Stellar Blade. So I like what they have said over here. I really hope things can turn around a little bit with the PlayStation 5 and going forward in the future. Especially, talking about, with the PlayStation Network side of things. If you want to get, PC players more on board with that sort of thing. I also want to mention here, before I finish quickly, about the PS5 sales quickly as well. The appointments come during a turbulent time in the gaming industry, which has seen almost 20,000 jobs lost in 2023. We can look that up, some other time about, about the video game layoff. It's a long story to get into. PlayStation was not immune to the cut, with 8% of its employees being cut globally, amounting to approximately 900 people. And so that's kind of a really unfortunate story to hear. The cuts also include some of the roles at Mr. Herman Holt's former studio, Guerrilla Games, as well. And also, it says here as well, despite having significant supply issues when it launched, which led to scalpers buying up the consoles on eBay and selling them at double the price, it has now gone on to sell 59 million units, significantly outselling rival Xbox. Which is funny because Xbox is like a little under or like almost half the amount of what PlayStation 5 has been selling. It just tells you the dire situation that Xbox really is in. Really, it's just kind of funny to read that. And so those are the two stories that are going on right now with PlayStation. I really wanted to get my opinions about. I want to know what you think actually about the two stories down in the comment section below. Do you guys agree with some of the things that's been going on with Square Enix, maybe what they've been saying? Do you actually like some of the new changes that are happening within the management team at PlayStation? I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. And I also want to address something quickly that I saw from my last video that I'm going to put right over here actually. In regards to the idea that I saw some of your comments. I didn't get to respond to every one of them. I apologize. Some of you guys have been asking me, for example, like, why criticizing PlayStation for this particular story, for example? Why, why do you make some videos in regards to, criticizing the studio with some of the decisions? Well, that's simply put because I actually care about PlayStation, for example. I actually grew up, I didn't grow up with the PS1, but I grew up with the PlayStation 2 and going up until now with the PS5. And there are a lot of things I like from PlayStation, especially with their history, but a lot of things they've been doing with the PS5, especially since the launch back in 2020, have been very shaky for me, especially after they shut down the Japanese headquarters branch and they moved over entirely to the Western side. So they make a bunch of, really forgettable, like super realistic, narrative-driven games. And I really would like to see them get back on track. I wouldn't make these type of videos, especially this one, if I didn't care, honestly, about PlayStation all that much. Look, I don't care about Xbox, personally. I'm not going to make a lot of videos on Xbox on this channel because The downfall is just something that I predicted over the last 10 years when they were first trying to launch the Xbox One, and that reveal was such a disaster. I really did not care for them that much, and I think they've struggled with an identity crisis to just produce quality exclusive games for their own brand. But with PlayStation, they've had a lot of successes and a lot of misses as well. And I think it's important for us, whether for us fans to criticize them on what decisions that we don't like. And for example, if you don't like what we're saying, for example, please feel free. I'd love to hear what you guys say. For example, I'm going to try to be more active and more respectful in the way that I want to engage in your responses. For example, if you want to rebut against a lot of the points that I make in these videos. But that's kind of what I want to bring up there. If you guys also like more videos about movies, video games, reactions, live streams, I hope you guys push a like on the video. Hope you guys can subscribe to the channel as well. I would really very much appreciate it. I love what I've been able to do with this channel. I've got a lot of things going on right now. Within some things that I'm working on personally. I'm actually moving in a week or two to a brand new apartment. So I'm on a transitional period, but also a lot of content coming to you guys for this channel that I'm really looking forward to putting out there for you guys. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.